Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of I'm Not Gonna Lie. I'm your host, Ashley, and wow, I'm back. Honestly, before we jump into this conversation, I just want to apologize. I'm seeing my apology because I have missed the last 2 weeks with an episode, which I truly sorry, especially because I love being consistent with the podcast, but I've been traveling and that's not a bad thing. It's just I've been traveling and I was also hosting. So, yeah, I just like to be in the moment and be present. And I really just wanted to put my energy towards that. And so I did, I guess selfishly. Yes, but no worries, Akuna Matata. I am back. And today's episode, episode 8, I can't believe we're in episode 8. It's a quick one, but it's one that I've had a lot of notes on. It's just like a note for myself sometimes. You guys know that I am a spiritual person and I share my spirituality online and with other people. And through that, I have learned that there are a lot of misconceptions about spirituality. And, there's also a lot of opinions and a lot of people's just judgment on it. And because of that, I realized that I have to set boundaries on my spirituality. Now, we've talked before about just having boundaries in general, just with life. But this one is just for all my spiritual beings out there. And you want to protect your energy. So, yeah, let's talk about it. So, if this is your first time here, this is a space where we talk about life, honestly, spirituality, healing, growth, the uncomfortable lessons, all the beautiful ones, all of it. Okay. And sometimes, yeah, that's and today's episode is something that, like I said, I think a lot of people in the spiritual spaces struggle with because somewhere along the way, many of us were taught that being spiritual means being endlessly patient, endlessly understanding, and, endlessly forgiving. And I'm not going to lie, that idea has hurt a lot of people. So, we're going to be talking about something that's rarely discussed, and that spiritual boundaries are still boundaries. It does not matter. Being compassionate does not mean abandoning yourself. Being spiritually aware does not mean accepting disrespect. And protecting your energy is not the same thing as being unkind. So let's talk about it. One thing I've noticed in spiritual communities is this quiet pressure to always be the bigger person. You hear things like, just send them love, everything is a lesson, or forgive them, they're just on their own journey. Okay. And what that mean? Just listening to those ideas, it can be very beautiful in a different type of context. Because sometimes those phrases become a way for people to convince themselves to tolerate behavior that should never be tolerated. That's called disrespect. It's called manipulation, constant emotional draining. We always hear that phrase taking advantage of the nice people, the good people out there. And spirituality is not supposed to be, you know, it doesn't mean that you're somebody's doormat because you're all love and light. That is not true. And spirituality is not love and light. Honestly, it's not. Your growth does not require suffering from yourself or from others. And protecting our peace is not betrayal of your spirituality. Just because you have to put somebody in their place, or you have to cuss a little bit, or you have to, you know, you're just human and you're like, look, you're not going to say these things. You're not going to do these things. That's okay. That is what I think is what spirituality is. And it's also just, it's not fair to just use people as doormat just because you feel like, oh, they're just holier than thou. They can take it and they'll forgive. So I can do and say whatever it is I want to do. And I'm here to tell you that is an absolute, absolute nay. Okay. And in fact, sometimes the most spiritually aligned thing you can do is just to step away. A lot of us confuse compassion with self sacrifice. Those are two completely different things. Okay. You can understand someone's pain without letting them project it onto you. And I know that's really easier said than done. But when it comes to being spiritual, you learn it can be done and it eventually is easier done. Okay. You can wish someone healing without allowing them unlimited access into your life. You can forgive someone and still decide they no longer belong in your inner circle. And I know that sounds, harsh or whatever, but like spirituality, like I said, is not this love and light type of thing. It's really about protecting your peace. And in order to protect your energy and your peace, you have to make hard decisions. You have to put your foot down. You have to have moments of, I guess, quote unquote, being the bad person, and that is really what spirituality is sometimes. It's about protecting your energy, protecting your peace, your healing, your comfort, and, having clarity in that. And that means at times that you have to have boundaries. And having boundaries means standing, 10 toes for yourself and for your actual energy and your space. Spirituality maturity is not measured by how much pain you can tolerate. It's measured by how clearly you honor your truth, is something that I'm really learning. You know, Not to get off topic, but I'm not going to lie, I've had to learn that. Like, I've had to cut people off that were very close to me and not cut them off like, oh, I'll never speak to you again, but as in, I've distanced myself from people, places, and things, and it wasn't that hard. One, because I knew I had to in order to fulfill healing from certain things that people have done, whether it's family, whether it's friends, it doesn't matter. And also, I speak out loud to the universe and to my ancestors, and I say, hey, I need to be distanced from this person. I no longer feel like I align with this person. Please help me, guide me, to do that without having guilt for myself. And let me tell you something, when you say that and you believe in it, you write it down and you're speaking it out there, your ancestors, your universe, your God, they will definitely deliver that for you. And then you'll look up and you'll be like, oh, wow, I really, I haven't talked to that person in a very long time. That really feel like I'm missing out. Or, hey, I feel lighter in this situation, so it can be done. You just have to realize that if I honor my truth, I honor my healing and honoring myself, it can be done, and doing that is simple, but yet very powerful. And one of the things, and I wrote down one of the things that I do say to help me in situations like this is, I love you, but this is no longer working for me. That's all. I love you, but this is no longer working for me. And if you don't want to say I love you, then fine. You ain't got to say that either. But, I don't, I'll also say, I don't wish anything bad. It's just, I can't fuck with you. Okay. You can also say it like that and it works. No yelling, no drama, just clarity. Sometimes clarity is way more important than the guilt of people's emotional draining energy and feeling like I'm somebody's doormat or feeling like I can't fully be myself around other people. It's just not worth it. So you have to set those boundaries because yourself is way more important. Your truth is way more important. Whether you believe in spiritual energy, emotional energy, or just psychological impact, the truth is the same. People affect us. Some people leave you feeling calm, inspired, lighter. Others leave you feeling drained, fused, maybe a little anxious. I'm pretty sure we can relate to that, whether you're spiritual or not. We all know, like, if you're around certain people, how do they make you feel when you leave them? Think about it. Your body often knows the difference before your mind admits it. And spiritual awareness actually makes this more noticeable. When you start paying attention to your inner world, you begin recognizing when something feels off, when someone crosses a line, when a dynamic is no longer healthy. And honestly, that awareness is not something you are supposed to ignore. Honestly, it's just information. And that's also why a lot of people, they never fully commit to whatever their spiritual journey is because of that, because they're afraid of, you know, the possibility of being someone completely different, for not having the same inner circle and, not having the same ideas and ways and thinking the same. Well, of course, it's not supposed to be the same. You're supposed to transform into someone completely different. The way that you talk, the way that you think, and the people that you allow around you. But because of being afraid and or just not liking change, and I'm sorry if that's you and you take offense to that, but because of that, you're ignoring the awareness that you are supposed to have to help improve you, to help your self development. Your intuition is, it's not something to make life harder. I believe that intuition is really here to guide us toward alignment, to guide us towards healing and, awareness and allowing us to really thrive and be better versions of ourselves. One of the things that I'm learning is that boundaries are not punishment. This is one of the most, I would say, enlightened things to understand because it's not, boundaries are not revenge. It's not a rejection. It's not even cruelty. A boundary is simply clarity about what you will and will not allow in your space. Simple as that. So, for example, I can't continue this conversation if it turns disrespectful, right? That's setting a boundary. Or I'm not available for emotional dumping late at night, which, you know what? I can't stand. Like, I'm about to go to sleep and you're going to tell me how horrible your day was and how angry I'm going to sleep. Like, I don't want to think about that. You have to set those boundaries. I'm not going to lie, right? And if you can sit and be honest with yourself and say, "Hey, I may be one of those people who I emotionally dump, my trauma on people, or, I think more negative than I do positive," then hey, you need to set a boundary with yourself. You need to learn these things. You need to not be those people if you want to. Again, it's all about not ignoring the awareness. Anyway, um, it's just there's so many examples. I need distance from this relationship right now, or this friendship, or this job, or, and whatever someone's situation may be. Those examples are not attacks. Okay. They're just expressions of self awareness. And honestly, people who respect you will respect your boundaries. The ones who get angry about them are usually the ones who benefited from you not having them in the first place. So if they get angry because you're deciding, hey, I need to honor myself. I need to honor my spirituality or my healing or whatever it is that I'm going through right now, in order to grow and be the better version of myself. Then maybe that's the universe saying, hey, I'm putting this in your face. I'm showing this to you because you no longer need to have this in your energy anymore. And that leads me to another thing that I thought about, which is the spiritual guilt. Okay. So I've learned that one of the hardest parts of setting boundaries is the guilt that comes with it, especially for people who are naturally compassionate. That's me. You start questioning yourself. Am I being too harsh? Am I abandoning someone who needs help? Am I being selfish? But here's the truth, you cannot heal everyone. You cannot carry everyone. And you're not responsible for fixing people who refuse to take responsibility for themselves. And I want to say that one more time, one more time. You are not responsible for fixing people who refuse to take responsibility for themselves. Spiritual growth includes learning where your responsibility ends. You can support someone, yes. You can love someone, yes, but you cannot become their emotional life support system. That's not healing. That's exhaustion. Not going to lie. That is something that I've honestly prayed about because I was always the person that I had to help people. I had to support them. I had to be there to listen. I had to always give the advice. And oh my God, did it get so tiring? It really did. I mean, there was times that I was losing myself, like, if I had like, I'm not gonna lie, here's an honest situation. There were times where story time. There were times when I would care so much about a situation, I probably cared more than the person who was having the situation. That's some real shit. And the moment that I lose who I am, I'm yelling, I'm screaming, I'm cussing, and I'm saying mean things, to you because I'm trying to get to like through you to realize your worth or, whatever it may be to help benefit you. That's me doing too much. And unfortunately, I've been that person. I've been the person that was like, how can you not see what's happening? You're like, man, I've been that person. Completely ugly, completely rude, all because I felt like all the advice I'm giving you, all of the compassion I'm showing, all of my emotional self I'm giving to you. And I don't know, maybe wasn't getting the reaction that I wanted. Maybe I wasn't getting the outcome that I wanted for you. It was just exhausting. It was exhausting. And honestly, that's when I realized, you know what? I can't do this. I'm not really helping you. I can't be the one that's always taking the call. I can't be the one that's always getting upset because you're upset, but then you're fine 2 minutes later. I realized I can't heal everybody. I can only heal myself. And it's like when that clicked, I realized like light bulb, I can only heal me. And that is what matters. And that's when you learn to start setting boundaries because you realize my own healing, my own awareness is way more important than anything else. I'm not going to lie. When you learn that, you can't really be fucked with. A lot of people, they talk about protecting your energy like it's some mystical ritual, but often it's actually something very practical. Choosing who has access to you, choosing what conversations you engage in, choosing how much emotional labor you give. Your peace is something you cultivate. And like any garden, you have to be careful about what you allow to grow there. It's very important. And some things bring beauty, yes, and some things slowly choke everything else. Learning the difference is part of spiritual maturity. And yeah, those that's what I wanted to talk about. I told you it's a quick episode because I just was writing notes and, as I was traveling, I take my journal everywhere I go just in case I have thoughts that I want to share, talk about. And, while I'm there, whatever healing traveling brings me, which it always does, I just like to have my journal there. And these were things that was heavy on my mind when I was traveling and I wanted to share them. I was like, oh, is nothing long, nothing serious. Just wanted to share these things for whoever may need it, whoever is listening. If this message was for you, then great, and I hope you continue to learn how to set boundaries and not feel bad about setting boundaries. I think boundaries and alignment will probably be the biggest things that we talk about this season because it's something that I'm currently learning. So, of course, I'm going to share that with you. That's what this podcast is all about. So, if there's one thing I would like for you guys to take from today's episode, it's this: being a loving person does not mean abandoning yourself. Being spiritual does not mean tolerating everything. And setting boundaries does not make you less compassionate. It means you are finally respecting your own spirit too. Sometimes the most peaceful thing you can say is simply, "This is where my boundary is." And that's not a failure of love. That's just the beginning of self respect. All right, you guys, like I said, quick episode. It was a quickie today. But thank you for spending this time and for listening. And as always, if this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need the reminder that protecting their peace is allowed. And also, if you would like to know more about boundaries, like I said, I've talked about it in this season, and some really good episodes would probably be maybe episode 6 as well. 5 and 6 are great episodes to listen to if you want more information about boundaries and setting them and realizing that it's not really a guilt thing, you guys. It's just something that has to be done. Okay. I'll be back next week just so I can catch up on my episodes. But as always, your growth, your healing, and your boundaries can all exist at the same time. Okay. Share this episode with your family and friends, whoever may need it. If there's anything that you want to hear more about and from me, please let me know. My LinkedIn tree is in the description below, so you can contact me that way. But thank you so much. I'm Ashley, and this is I'm Not Gonna Lie. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.